So I wanted to talk about the difference between price correlation, returns correlation, and volatility correlation because they're fundamentally different things. Options have very complex risk profiles, and that makes managing a short premium portfolio, especially one that's more heavy in short premium positions, much more nuanced than like an equities portfolio, for example. So I wanted to talk about why that difference is so important and why protection is something that you need to think about a little bit differently when it comes to these kind of more complex products. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Love it.
Easy. So diversifying an options heavy portfolio is nuanced, right? Especially one with short premium positions, which have like that excuse me, unlikely tail risk. And like the typical like bread and butter strategy for diversification in like an equities portfolio is underlying diversification, right? Like you pick underlyings, you pick symbols that have historically had like kind of like opposite price movements, or they tend to move in like opposite directions, such that if there's a drop in the market or drop in kind of whatever, sector, industry, whatever you have exposure to, you can like buffer some of those downward movements and have more consistent long-term gains going forward. But with options, directional protection does not protect you alone because there is a volatility component. So I wanted to take a look at how like this concept of implied volatility correlation can undermine what might seem to be a well-diversified portfolio. And here we're going to use SPY and TLT, which have historically been like inversely correlated price movements, returns movements, although we've seen a bit of a reversal of that in the last couple of years. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Cool. Let's hop into it. Okay, so this is looking at the 3-month returns correlation between SPY and TLT on the next slide. And actually very interesting. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, there we go. Actually very interesting. So these historically tend to move in opposite directions, although we've seen like a bit of a reversal in the last couple of years. We're seeing something similar in gold, and there's going to be a piece about that on Monday. But this seemed like a good kind of like, example to kind of use just because of the historical relationship between returns for the S&P 500 and for bonds. So typically like inversely correlated, looking at the last 10 years, it's pretty flat. Like there's pretty much no correlation if you look at the whole time frame between these two assets. Although we see that ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
So
going from 0 to -5, I would say like correlation you can hang your hat on is like 0.5 and above or 0.5 and below. So to your point, we're kind of chopping within that, but it has reversed in terms of being slightly negative to slightly positive.
Which has been a very interesting trend, actually. Not the same level of diversification that you normally get from bonds or gold. So that's going to be like an interesting follow-up study. But historically, when we look at kind of like the long term, these movements tend to kind of like cancel each other out to an extent, which is like, why you would put some of these defensive assets into like an equities portfolio to kind of hedge against, any sort of potential drops in the market. Right.
Yeah.
So if we go to the next slide, this kind of exemplifies that. So just looking at the last 10 years, like the correlation, rolling 3-month correlation has been positive about 30% of the time. It fluctuates quite a bit, but just looking at the overall period correlation, it's negative 0.16. So just long term, these, tend to move in kind of independent, roughly directions, although we can see that fluctuates, especially the last couple of years. But if we go to the next slide and we look at the implied volatility correlation between these two, we can see that it is consistently positive, minus one wacky day in between 2020 and 2021. Wonder what happened there. But the implied volatility correlations of SPY and TLT are actually consistently high and consistently positive. And so if we then go to the next slide, what that tells us is that even though we might get some directional buffer from SPY and TLT in this example, like historically moving in either opposite or independent directions, the implied volatilities for short premium positions for these two assets are more likely to move together. When there's a big vol event in the market, that happens kind of across everything, right? Which means that even though you might have some buffer from the directional movements, the implied volatility, especially for short premium positions, still leaves some exposure there. So it doesn't offer complete protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the shifting nature of this relationship is the key here for me. And we say this all the time. Like if you're trying to trade a pairs trade or a highly correlated asset, again, it's got to be like above 5, below -5. Like that's where you can really get into those trades. But when you have something like this that's fluctuating, it's hard to hang your hat on the relationship, clearly.
Right. And that's kind of why like price diversification is something that like it's not I would argue a very reliable strategy for short premium portfolios. You can use it for maybe like short term, like, you know, capturing short term deviations in the trend or short term trends, the relationships between these two assets. But diversification with options is something that we would really use the Greeks for more, a little bit. And this is where that Vega comes in, right? So like these two positions, like if you had a short put in SPY and short put in TLT, those Vegas would be the same sign, although they're not additive. So this is where like those Greeks come in really, really handy for risk management, where the traditional approach of looking at like price correlations would not be as the best metric necessarily to use here because of these other nuances in the risk profile. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go to the takeaways. Underlying diversification can be used to hedge against directional price movement, but it becomes less effective in a short premium portfolio because of this implied volatility component. Even though a pair might have uncorrelated prices or inversely correlated prices historically, the IVs, especially during market-wide events, tend to kind of increase together. One of the more effective ways to kind of mitigate these risks, and we've talked about it before, is just by limiting the capital applied to short premium positions overall. That is like one of the more effective ways to protect against the capital because underlying diversification just doesn't get you there. And 50% is kind of like the maximum that we've talked about in the past, although it depends a lot on your risk preferences and your account size, right? But like that's, you know, one of those more, I would say like reliable strategies, arguably, versus underlying price diversification.
Yeah. And I think we can't emphasize that enough. Like leaving cash on the side, you're already trading leveraged products. You have leverage by way of buying power reduction, relief, and really the sweet sauce or the secret sauce of options trading for me is just the ability to manipulate it. And you can't manipulate it if you trade too large and you don't have enough cash on the side to do just that. So love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I got.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Well, thanks, Julia. Appreciate you. E-minis selling off here as we've talked about. Tim Knight, I guess, is the bearer of bad market news. E-minis down 11, or sorry, up 11 only. NASDAQ up 220, about cut in half
Was just
ultimately.
up 56 or so.
Yeah, craziness. We're going to take a quick 90-second break. We'll see you on the other side. You're watching Tasty Live.
Cool. Just might.